Welcome back. Does personality impact influence? So, are some personalities more influential than others? What if we have a weak, influential personality? Well, I know the expert on influence, so we're going to talk about it. All right, of course, we're talking about influence. I brought in Valerie Moore. She wrote the book on influence, We're All Ears. You can find it on Amazon. So I'm really curious here.
Yes.
How does personality impact influence?
Well, it's when you're talking about digital marketing and influence, it's all about people wanting to pay attention and interact with you. So you have to be likable on some level, right? For people to want to keep sticking around, to keep wanting to get more content. So I think personality is a huge piece of influence building. And, if you're not a very nice person, who's going to want to hang out with you?
Okay. So another question I have is, how do you define personality?
Oh, gosh.
Maybe we should Google it.
Yeah, let's Google that.
Let's see if Siri has a good answer. How do you define personality?
The combination of characteristics or qualities that form an individual's distinctive character. Do you want to hear the next one?
Yes.
A celebrity or famous person.
Oh,
You
well.
want to hear one more?
No, thank you. So that wasn't very helpful.
No, it really wasn't.
Characteristics, okay, traits.
Yes.
So let's talk about that way. What traits make someone influential?
So I think when we're thinking through influence, especially online, one of the big pieces is that you understand a little bit of their empathy and their desire to help.
Okay.
So if it looks like it's just all about them, is that attractive? I don't know. Is that an attractive personality you want to be around? To some people, maybe it is. I think most people are drawn more to people that genuinely want to give something and share some information with someone else.
So what I hear there is there's genuineness. I don't necessarily think of that as a personality, but just someone's sincere desire. Maybe that is personality. Another thing that I thought of when you mentioned empathy is I personally believe that I've increased in my ability. It's kind of like a skill that I've been developing. I'm not all the way there yet. So I'm wondering if there are certain skills that as we develop, we then can become more influential.
I think that's true. I think, if we're constantly in the process of becoming a better person and a more loving person, I don't think that happens overnight. I think it's a process and a journey. And this process to becoming an influence to other people, it's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. And so I think, you also step into more of knowing who you are, and that can come out better to people once you are confident in who you are. But that's a process. We don't always know that right when we're building out our brand at the beginning of the business. It's something sometimes we evolve and grow into.
Okay, so a lot of times when I think of influencers, I think of somebody who's really powerful on stage. They're dynamic. They're really outgoing.
Sure.
I think of my client Chris Crone.
Yeah.
He's very big and stuff on stage. And sometimes I've compared myself to him. When I get on stage, I've tried to be like that, and it just doesn't come across as me. And so I go back to, I'm gonna show slides. I don't read the slides, but I show visuals, and I just teach and talk through it. And people have used words like, yesterday I heard the word comfortable. Mm-hmm. I've heard people say like, there's just this zen feeling about you, Nate. I'm like, okay. So I guess if those are my traits or my characteristics, can an introvert, somebody that's more introverted, be as influential as somebody who has more extroversion or outgoing?
It's very interesting to me because more and more speakers that I get to know, the more stages I speak on, the more I realize so many speakers are actually introverts. And what I've heard the definition of introvert extrovert being is more of, how do you recharge? Do you recharge your batteries from being alone or from being around other people? Do you feed off of people's energy so that it's a very uplifting process, or do you get drained by being in crowds? Do you get this thrill and you get recharged from being alone and having time away from people, or does that make you want to crawl out of your skin? So that's what I've heard as far as like how you define it. So I think introverts and extroverts can both be influencers. The reality, I know, isn't that a freeing thing? The reality though is that, you're going to attract other people who have that similar desire. So people that are wanting a very zen influence in their life are going to be drawn to you. People who want that go forward charge mentality, they might be drawn to a more energetic speaker that kind of just has that larger than life feel. They may be drawn to that, whereas that personality type might rub someone the wrong way. I think it all is part of the fact that we have different personalities we're interacting with every single day, and we're all different as well. So, it's one of those things where a lot of people get imposter syndrome when they realize, hey, there's, 10 or 20 other people out there doing the exact same thing I am, but not everyone has your unique skill set. And so when you take that into account, you can realize that, hey, you're going to attract the right people who are going to want to learn from you versus the person down the street who may do the exact same thing but have a completely different personality.
So it's okay to polarize then.
Oh yeah. And actually people don't talk about this enough, but the concept of repelling people is an important thing to think through in marketing. So are you not only attracting the right people, but are you repelling the people who may not fit well with your personality?
So what's an example of how you would repel somebody, but not I assume you do that in a nice way.
Well, sure. I mean, it's not like you're saying, hey, I won't work with you, or, there's this absolute, big wall that you put up. But I think in the language you use, the colors you use, you're going to attract people who appeal to those, and you're going to probably repel people who don't like that. So let's say you are, a speaker or a coach, and you have a very type A personality, you're very OCD about getting things done in a certain way, you might use certain colors that embrace kind of more of a power and dominance, and you can look into color theory to see what colors tend to be associated with different emotions. If you are more relaxed and go with the flow, you might use softer colors, or you might use a script font or something that doesn't have as much of a rigid feel to it to appeal to people who are looking for someone that has more of that go with the flow kind of mentality. So I think there's a lot of signals that you can put out there that will naturally repel certain people if it's just not a good fit. And it's not that one is better than the other, it's just that you're not a good fit.
So what I hear in how you just described that is that just by being true to who you are in terms of the color, the fonts that you use, the clothes that you wear, maybe the music or everything that is a part of your brand or your personality, just be true to who you are and you'll attract the right people. You'll be able to have influence in that tribe, and you'll repel those that aren't going to listen to you anyway.
Exactly. And a lot of times people, they think they should be appealing to a certain audience. And so they try to change who they are, or they might design their website or their branding to fit a certain audience that really is not their ideal audience. So I think it's important when you're building out your brand to think through, who do I really want to attract here? And how can I build my logo, my website, create social media content, create sets for videos that are going to attract the people who are going to work well with me versus trying to fit into a mold of someone else.
Well, I appreciate this conversation. I've actually found it very helpful. And I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave in the comments below, because I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on that. And of course, be sure to check out Valerie Morris's book, We're All Ears. It's on Amazon. And subscribe, so we'll see you tomorrow.